Welcome to the 2021 Commissioner's Choice exhibit, Looking into the Rearview Mirror, a look back at 2020. I'm Larry Lovelace, Chairman of the Arts Commission, and this year's exhibit looks at the challenges we all faced during these unprecedented times, ranging from isolation to racial justice, disease, human connection, and in the end, hope comes through in this collection of work that you're going to see shortly from artists both in Colorado and across the globe. The Arts Commissioners selected this theme after considerable discussion, and we started with 75 works of art that were received, which our curator then went through and wisely selected 50 of them for the exhibition. As you look at these works of art, please read the artist's statement because you'll find them to be very illuminating and give you an idea into how that artist felt about what he or she was presenting. We are honored today to have Mayor Jackie Millay with us, Mayor of Lone Tree, to spend a few minutes. Mayor Millay.
Larry, thank you. On behalf of my partners on City Council, I'd like to extend our gratitude and congratulations to the extremely talented Arts Commission for bringing this thought-provoking exhibit to the Arts Center. 2020 was the beginning of a new decade, new hopes, new dreams for many. Then March arrived and our world turned upside down. Quarantines began, lives were lost. Businesses closed, jobs were lost. Summer arrived and we witnessed the death of George Floyd, the social unrest that followed, and the cry for change. We suffered, we grieved, we mourned, but hope remained. Into the Rearview Mirror, a look back at 2020 provides a moving opportunity to reflect on individual struggles and the collective pain we experienced, but also the resilience and hope that carried us through a very difficult year. I know you will enjoy this visual experience.
Thank you, Mayor. It's always a pleasure having you join us. Our curator today, and as always, is Colleen Fanning. She's a private art advisor. She's an appraiser of post-war contemporary and emerging art and curator. Since 1996, she has curated collections for the City and County of Denver, Denver International Airport, both public and private collections across the country. She received her BFA in art history from University of Colorado in 1996, and following her undergraduate studies, she held positions at the highly regarded Denver Public Art Program, Denver International Airport for 3 mayoral administrations, including Wellington Webb, John Hickenlooper, and Michael Hancock. So please welcome Colleen Fanning.
Hello, thank you for joining us tonight. We really appreciate that you're here, and to all the artists and to the galleries that have collaborated with us, we want to thank you so much. This is a fabulous show and we're really glad that you're here. We will be talking with several artists and then potentially doing another session. We have just a few of the artists. I'll be talking about the artists that we won't be interviewing live and in person, but we hope that you'll enjoy this evening. And my background, so I've been working with the Lone Tree Art Center for, so I think since 2013, 2014. And we've done public art projects. And in the spring, we're really excited. Colin Parsons and Jody Roth Cooper will be installing a piece for the front of the Lone Tree Art Center. So we really encourage you to come down and check out everything that is available here. So let's see. I want to just say that this is just such a professional operation. Lone Tree is just like top notch, and all the staff that I've been working with is just phenomenal. I feel like I'm on Saturday Night Live. This is just so funny with the little pop-up and me talking. I feel like I'm doing the news on Saturday Night Live. But I think what would be really great, because all of the artists submitted a narrative to describe what they were feeling as they did their practice and through 2020. And so I'd really like to make sure that you understand what their thoughts were for these works. And of course, Jeff Tidwell, this piece, of course, captures the day after George Floyd was killed by a police officer that we all have seen. And this very extremely impactful crowd size was here in Denver, Colorado, between the Capitol and between the state capitol and the city and county building. So it was really, really emotional. And Jeff Tidwell was there during the day and was there during the evening. And as you see, this was one selection that we as an arts commission and me as a curator and Jeff felt this really said it all. If when you come down and you get close to this image, you will definitely be moved. The woman in the foreground, her emotion is so impactful. And as she's videoing the crowd that's walking by and down Broadway. Jenna Rice, these two works are so beautiful, and we really were intentional in choosing some of the artwork that has narrative in the works, text, because we really felt like the images are so powerful, but also some of the writings by the artists, but also some of the writings captured in the images, in the photography. And this, of course, says, "The world heard your song, Elijah." And these two images are from a protest and a vigil that happened in Aurora, Colorado. This says, "Carrying your light and your love to create a better world." These two are really, really impactful. This work, I really want to encourage you all to come down here. You just can't imagine how much more impactful the pieces are. The images don't do them justice. This work is absolutely beautiful. It's a full collage. So every piece of mark making is a cut piece of paper. It's just stunning. There's multiple layers. This particular work, I want to read you the artist's statement. She says, "When I saw the momentum of the Black Lives Matter protests increasing in Denver, I wanted to go out and document the movement. I wanted to, there was a vast difference in the day and night protests." I'm so sorry. Oh my God. So, it's really funny doing this thing live. The only thing that I'm good at in the world is art. Like that, I just talk art every single day. So hopefully I don't screw this up. It's just funny. All right, this artist's name is Audrey Ng, and her beautiful statement, this piece is titled "Antonym," and it was inspired by anger at racial injustice in America. Throughout the pandemic, hostility toward Asian Americans heavily impacted my work. Racist views about the origins of the virus left me deeply frustrated. The intersection of this issue with ongoing violence towards Black Americans led me to create a piece about pain, rage, and hope during the year of suffering. I was infuriated by stories of racial injustice, but inspired by the movement towards change. I wanted to illustrate hurt and anger, accompanied by glimpses of beauty in our nation's messy fight for progress. This work is one of my favorites in the show. There's so many, but this particularly, it's just absolutely stunning. The way the mixed media that she uses for the piece is really impactful. And these pieces are a little bit out of focus. They are really stunning in person. And Clark is a fiber artist, and she did her MFA at the Rhode Island School of Design, RISD, and her works are just mind-blowingly beautiful. Her textile works, I really encourage you all to make sure that you investigate every one of the artists that are here in the show, because their work and their practice is just exceptional. And so this year's these 3 images are called Summer Series 2, 3, and Laminar Turbulent Flow. So these works are about politics, racism, COVID-19, and individually the tensions generated by these issues created tremendous upheaval on of their own. In 2020, all 3 exploded simultaneously. This massive rupture pushed far beyond social norms and capacities, and nearly all aspects of the life that we take for granted in America forever changed, and is still changing. Each of these paintings depicts varying degrees of disorder, movement through superimposed layers, much in the way the chaos and disruption moved through the layers of our society last year. Normally, happy colors take on a slightly ominous feeling, and though the structure provided by horizontal lines, layers, imposes some semblance of order, visual elements move and shift in unpredictable ways. These works are made with encaustic, so cold wax, and oil paint, and they are really, really beautiful. Melissa Lynn, these works are an experiment for her. I had a really nice long conversation with her about her process for 2020. And in these works that are called True Effect, number 1, 2, 3, and 5, my True Effect series responds to the deep divisions in the US caused by conspiracy theories, disinformation, and social media use in politics. Fueled by digital world, alternate realities are so pervasive that countless families have been fractured by them. I am reminded of Plato's allegory of the cave and the matrix, where separating what is real from what is illusory is key to achieving peace and unity. And she goes on. So if you do the visual pass-through that the Lone Tree has was able to do for all viewers who aren't able to get here, you'll be able to read everyone's statement. So I would encourage that you do that, because they're really impactful. And this artist is named Corcoran. Oh, sorry. And these are layers of photography in Photoshop by Melissa. And Corcoran is a Savannah College of Art and Design graduate. And this particular work is just absolutely so timely. And you can see the Capitol in the background and the Black Lives Matter, and the COVID, the little COVID virus. And this particular work, the inspiration for the title of this work is called Another Roadside Distraction, is from looking back at the current events that just recently occurred with the atrocity of the insurrection in the Capitol. The graphic and expressionistic nature of the painting also highlights Black Lives Matter and the COVID-19 as well. We have all been dealing with so much unfathomable change since last March of this past year, and this painting is a raw, contemplative look at now contemplative look at now and having the courage to face danger and despair square in the eye. Another roadside distraction is a primitive attempt to capture the essence of despair that a lot of us have felt with coming to terms with the pandemic. It's a really lovely, large acrylic on canvas. And this really stunning, absolutely beautiful piece is by Suchitra Matai, and she is represented by K Contemporary, and her work is just beautiful. Suchitra's works speak to the artist's keen interest in giving voice to people whose voices are historically unheard. Using both her own family's ocean migrations and research on the period of colonial indentured labor during the 19th century, the artist seeks to expand our sense of history. These textiles are always a part of Suchitra's work. She uses sari, beautiful, beautiful colored saris, and creates these huge installations that fill a room. And this particular piece in this newest body of work, Innocence and Everything After, includes, and then also includes another work called The Invisible Girl. Matai considers a contrast between societal loss of innocence and the collective gaining of knowledge as the result of the recent global events, from the brutal murder of George Floyd to the burning of the Amazon and the global pandemic. These have turned the world upside down. Matai's exploration of the possibility of regaining a kind of second-order innocence, one that transports the viewer back to their collective childhood, when the world was full of tantalizing possibilities. And again, it's really hard to tell in this image, but this work has so much dimension, and it is embroidery, floss, vintage needlepoint, fiber, and applique. It's a really stunning work. Please come down and see it. And this next work is by Kevin Sloan, and Kevin is also represented by K Contemporary. And Kevin's work is amazing. His works are a play with nature, and he has investigated over the years the use of implementing John J. Audubon wildlife into much of his work, and his photorealistic ability as a painter is just stunning. And he'll weave like a John James Audubon inspired swan mixed with like an electrical plug, making much metaphor. And this particular work is called Solstice Bird. And this work, obviously you see the two candles that are on the canvas jutting off the sides. These two, candles that have the metaphor of homage to nature. And you look at this canvas, and the forest floor is burning. They're burning embers. And of course, with every single year, the California fires are just devastating wildlife and our nature, our lands. So this particular piece is quite obvious why it fit in so nicely into our show. And Laura Ball is a really talented, beautiful artist, also working with themes of nature. And I encourage you to investigate her work deeper. She's just a stunning draftswoman. She's so talented. And these works they take many different critters, and they all they're all an assemblage making up one larger tiger in this case. And Laura's fantastical compositions feature exotic and and endangered flora and fauna from around the globe, often consuming one another, blending or melding into each other as if in a dreamlike state. As industry and human consumption encroaches further into the natural habitats, the resources taken seem to be increasingly matched by pestilence and natural disaster. Laura Ball is a champion of creatures large and small who are honored in her watercolors, often adorned with glints of 24-karat gold leaf in her pieces. They're just stunning. And Laura is represented by David B. Smith Gallery. This one you can see a little bit larger. Please definitely come and see this work. Linda Lowry is a Denver-based artist, and she's investigating. I'm going to jump ahead to this particular piece first, and then I'm going to go backwards. So Linda, this is a monoprint with chincolet. The COVID mask is actually a chincolet process that she uses a wet paper in the printmaking process and layers it on top exactly where it is to land on the image, and then it's flattened. So the chincolet process is like an applique or additional piece of collage added to the work. And so she says the term monkey mind is one that she is experientially familiar with, and she is the subject sitting in a ceremonial healing circle. One of the most important aids that she can offer is meditation and time in nature. The mask pinpoints the pandemic times. It hides her smile, but her eyes indicate amusement, our new experience in reading joy. Part of the pandemic efforts included attempts to germinate seeds and grow food, which was one of her responses to 2020 in her practice. And it was initially a survivalist response related to food shortage. It quickly became a psychologically uplifting experience to watch plants grow in hopes of harvesting food. She learned that gardening is a way more complex than just watering seeds, and learned something about soil and microbiomes. Lo and behold, so much healthy gardening becomes a climate crisis. So I'm going to go back to these works. The springboard for the new monoprint focuses on plants, beginning and evolution. She enjoys unpredictable nature of printmaking. These prints have a theme of invented early plant life, and they are colorful in compositions studies. The prints start more sparingly and quickly become full and more complex. And just as an aside, monoprint means just one. So even though we use the word print, this is a monoprint, so there is just one. It's a unique monoprint. And Ashley Sertich, we were very compelled by these two images made by Ashley. She is obviously playing on the isolation of COVID. And when you look at these images, this particular playground has the insanity of police tape, caution tape, stretched across as if like swinging is going to, it's forbidden. So this image was very impactful, and we were really excited to include this in the show. And she basically says that when the world shut down last March, it felt surreal. Everything looked the same, but felt completely different. She struggled to find the right words to explain to her daughter what was happening. She realized she needed to understand why we had to stay home instead of going to school, play dates, and the park. When this was over, how much of it would a 4-year-old remember? It's really, and there's another image here, which we all saw back last year in the early part of COVID, which was just, again, surreal. Lovely images. And Tanya Rustage is a ceramic artist. These pieces are so delightful. They're just really fun. Once again, there's narrative embedded into the ceramics. And this particular piece says, has words along the spine of the character saying, wear a mask, lockdown, pandemic, COVID, social distancing, saddening, quarantine. And of course, the body language, you can feel the weight of the human in the 2020, in the year of 2020. And this particular work is called A Year of Defeat. This piece, no words needed. Again, her masterful use of her materials in creating these human figures and really conveying the weight of the world on the human. Another work, Freedom No More. Again, text is written all over the human, and with a nice little COVID mask there. And these are all porcelain. They're just really, really great. So fun and playful. And the last one, again with text. This one's titled Body Language. I think she really executed these pieces beautifully. They're so fun. So fun and very poignant. And Peter Olson's work, these are stunning. They're just so beautiful. Peter's work, he uses photography and overlays photography over porcelain, over these porcelain vessels. And I encourage you to explore his work more deeply. He's represented by Michael Warren, contemporary. And these two pieces are particularly called COVID-19 Urn 1 and Urn 2 and Urn 3. And these are wheel-thrown porcelain with photos, sepia colored photos overlaid onto the ceramics. And Peter says he documented these during the time of isolation, during the pandemic, with a series of vessels depicting the toll disease has taken on the population, both physically and emotionally. He called his ongoing works a journal of the plague year. He recognizes that throughout history, decorative urns have depicted the story of the monument and sees these as continuing this visual narrative. A note on the process, his wheel-thrown porcelain are covered with photographic images that are fired, burned off decal, but baked the iron-rich impression into the final glaze. They're really, really amazing. And Lisa Calzavara, these works, at first, you may not blatantly think about COVID-19 or racial injustice or the craziness of the politics from this last year. But we selected these because they are, in fact, very intentionally made about those themes. However, they are so subtle and they really are just beautiful paintings. And the title for these works are C19, COVID-19, 10/22/2020, and 10/9/2020. So so she says that, well, let's face it, we've all been challenged this past year. In developing this new series, I've had to continually look inward and confront the fears that overwhelm us. I've changed from creating realistic landscapes to confronting the stress of all changes we've endured due to the virus. These new contemporary abstracts I've created are narrative of the emotional roller coaster that we've all endured. The pieces range from surrealism to extreme abstraction, with high contrasts high contrast of color, echoing the strange and volatile times. These paintings have large areas of movement representing the bombardment of challenges in chaotic times. In order to reconcile the turbulent thoughts, calming cascade colors were added to provide a positive response and enhance the overall balance of the piece. They're really beautiful. And this young man is just really, I feel, from many of the photographs that were submitted, really just so beautifully captured last year. He captured this while he was out and about, and so in order for the barbershop to be open, they had to move their chair outside, and then of course the cutter is in a full hazmat suit, completely covered. He says that his photograph is of men trying to live their lives during COVID-19 and the madness of the madness that was 2020 while trying to regain a semblance of normalcy. So this is a lovely, perfect image by Gilberto Sanchez. And Kelton Osborne's works are just absolutely stunning. His works I've loved forever. They have an architectural feel to them, in addition to color blocking, color field painting. And his particular works that we selected were done during 2020, during a really turbulent time for him personally from a health perspective. And then this particular piece is called Good Day, Good Today. And so this, Kelton is represented by Michael Warren Gallery also. And these little works on paper are just a meditation for him to create, and really helped him kind of unblock a little block that he had, these works. So, and just a little note from the gallery, Kelton prefers to work on paper and layering his paints and charcoal lines with collage newspaper, clippings, maps, old books, old letters, and photographs. These paintings were created in 2020 as part of his personal experience, reflecting the highs and lows that come with the year of isolation. They're really beautiful. So some of these works, that this particular one, Kelton's work titled Honey, again, we selected it, not only is it aesthetically a beautiful work, the composition is gorgeous, but again, the works with words in them, with text, we were very compelled to include them. We felt they really spoke to the year. And some of the works that are in the show aren't necessarily a blatant narrative about the chaos of last year, but instead were a process of unblocking a creative block, a creative artistic block. And this particular work is just so peaceful and beautiful. And you would think that it's a photograph, but it actually is a painting. This is by Nathan Abels, who is in Evergreen, Colorado, and he's represented by Rule Gallery. And this piece is stunning. This entire work of tent shadows was created when he and his family went camping, and they were laying inside the tent during the high part of the sunshine in the day. And he saw the reflection of these of the trees kind of dancing on the side of the tent. And he turned this beautiful, peaceful experience into paintings. And there was a little bit of a block artistically in the beginning of 2020 and COVID and the whole isolation. And this was work that helped him move through that. And I would go to his website or to Rule's website and take a look at these. They're stunning. And here's another text-based beautiful mixed media print that is by Lee Gonzalez, and the title is called Remote. And she says that her piece is a reflection of her time during quarantine for COVID-19 and how it affected her life, her work, and her heart. She's an elementary art school teacher at a public school, and a lot of teachers have been struggling with teaching remotely. And we were intentional about who we invited to be in this show because we felt that there was so many people who had something really important to say. And so Lee Gonzalez, being a teacher and really reflecting a moment in time during like the new normal that they all had to face with no classroom, and then having to learn how to be in front of teach virtually. We all know how challenging that was. And she said that we had to completely change the way of teaching and working with our students. So our hats, all of us, our heart to yours. Thank you to all the teachers. We love you. We really appreciate everything that you had to relearn in order to make this work. But this particular piece you can see in the online gallery that the Lone Tree Art Center has created for you. So I would definitely read her artist statement and read the words that are in this piece. They're really great. And Edie Winograde is a wonderful artist represented by Robuchon Gallery, and her works have in the past been staged images of cavalry, staged theater cavalry charging in the landscape. And this particular series, she did a bunch of scrolls through 2020. So taking a much departed investigation through her camera, this particular series of work during the pandemic and its periods of lockdown, many people, she says she has been home a lot more than usual. And as a photographer who often takes her camera to far away sites and populated events, she didn't think that she felt inspired to make art. And anyway, she says there were other things to deal with. Soon enough, she found that picking up the camera was at hand to the photographer, whatever visual situation caught her eye in the yard or around her house. And so each of these images, both photographs that are printed and then attached to the scroll, or scanned and embedded in the printed onto the scroll, everything is related to nature. And she has a quote that is by Minor White that she references. And the quote is, "Let the subject generate its own photographs. Become a camera." So these works are just beautiful and stunning, and they're very large framed works. So they're really beautiful. And the next work is by Adrienne Delot, who created a wonderful project on Instagram that's called Pandemic Self-Portraits. And I would encourage you to go to Instagram and pull that particular project up and see the submissions from individuals from all around the world who created a self-portrait of themselves and sent them to Adrienne, and then she's been posting. The project was closed maybe about 3 weeks ago, maybe possibly a month ago, but she received so many submissions that she's still posting on a daily or every other day basis. And this particular piece, we have 48 slides, and these are just some of the stunning self-portraits that were received from around the world. And the top left and the lower right image are both Adrienne Delot. It's just a fabulous, fabulous collaborative project. And Colleen Francis is a local, an artist here regionally. She's represented by Space Gallery. and Michael Burnett. And this particular piece, it might be hard to see unless you're standing in front of the painting. This particular work is a collage. There's an additional piece of canvas that is added to the front of the piece, and it's basically a ladder. And it's a ladder. So the title of this piece is Climbing Out of the Chaos. And the tranquility, so she says, the tranquility in the midst of daily turmoil. The Japanese have a word for this. It's called seijaku. Seijaku isn't an escape from the chaotic world that surrounds us. Rather, it is seeking the serenity in the midst of chaos. The finding of true inner quiet as the world churns around us. These pieces are so vibrant and so beautifully, she has a mastery of color. This work is just stunning. And she says that she suggests to the viewer that the journey to serenity can start with a break from the chaos of the pandemic, political and social upheaval, and a discovery of the calm pond at the heart of us. So let's see, I think I better hustle up. Paul Sisson, these works are beautiful, long exposure photography. And he says that the works are these night lights, both of these two words, hope and love, our response to the negative rhetoric that has been in the constant news cycle and needing to be a different, and he's hoping and loving, bringing in a new dichotomy, a different vibration. So this is Night Lights Love and Night Lights Hope. And he's also represented by Michael Warren Contemporary. All right, so we are ready to bring in our artists and have a discussion. So the first artist that we're going to talk with is Floyd Tunston. Hi, Floyd.
Hello, Colleen. How are you doing?
Really well. Thank you so much for being here. Let me move to your work. And Floyd, I'm so glad to be speaking with you. I've admired your works for forever. And we even showed one of your pieces at the Denver International Airport.
That's true.
Way back many years ago.
That's true.
Yeah. So I'd love for you to share with us how 2020 tell us about this work, and also tell us about how 2020 has affected your practice. Has it enhanced your practice, and where are you going from here?
First, I'll tell you about the work. It's about racial facial identification, which really deals with AI and facial recognition that is used through a lot of tech companies, and even universities are involved in that. And the images and the technology that comes out of that is used a lot for police departments and so forth. It's usually based on a series or many facial images that are used to identify people. And the reason I have it in this particular piece is because, just like everything else, there's always some inadequacies when it comes to minorities. And for minorities, Asian, and for Blacks, and mostly Black women, facial recognition fails a lot. And in the process of failing a lot, sometimes it puts people in really credulous positions in the criminal justice system. And many companies have stopped doing it. There are still some that refuse to do it, and they still share it with the police departments and so forth. Even the ones that came out of the University of Washington, that program, which they didn't get permission to use all the faces they utilized to make the program, they ended up in China and have been used basically to recognize the Uyghurs and causing a lot of grief there. But basically, the images from partly of my Untitled 96 series, which has many versions where it targets African Americans for a lot of injustices. You can talk about education, housing, you name it, we're always on the lower end of the totem pole. So this is one that just bring to our attention that facial recognition is really flawed when it comes to minorities. And when you want to talk about this year of 2020, I mean, I don't know if anybody, you would think that if you were shut down the way you are and you had nothing but time to yourself, that you would be the most productive person in the world. But truly the opposite, because it was very depressing. And so many events were going on that you couldn't actually regurgitate all that right away. Basically, I'm still ruminating on many of the injustices and things that happened this summer and with the past administration. It takes a while for me to be able to come up with a concept where I actually deal with that. I can't deal with it in the now time because it's just too much. And like most people, I probably had a lot of trepidation after all that, and probably a little depression and a block in actually working in the studio the way you want to. But I'm used to being isolated, but when it's forced upon you, it's different. And having it forced upon us, it took a while to get back in the groove of actually having some really productive studio time, because you really are on a different schedule. I mean, I usually had been very nocturnal in doing my work, but now, I mean, I'm really nocturnal. I'm on a schedule where if you don't have any appointments or something outside of your space, I'm really a night bird. And it's conducive to working, but it took a while to get back in the groove.
How do you feel this beginning to 2021 has opened calm, or does it feel like you're getting back to like, are you making new work right now? And can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I am making new work, but I also think like I'm very cautious about 2021. Everyone wants to jump to the beaches and hang out in the park and do all the activities now, and I'm still like wanting to wear a double mask and not go anywhere. But as far as new work, I've been working on some pieces that I'll be working for the fall at Michael Warren Contemporary, and some other pieces where I'm doing some photography for Croiser Gallery down in Colorado Springs in September. And I'm also still in process of getting some pieces that will have already been curated, but some new pieces that will go with the Red Line show next summer.
Wonderful.
And I'm working right now on gentrification, and mostly that's what I'm working on right now, gentrification, and I'm doing a lot of cyanotypes and gum prints that don't deal with that at all. They deal with images that I've taken back in 1976 in Mississippi and in the 90s in Mississippi. So I'm getting ready to, for the first time, have a show where I have partially part of the show of photography, which I've never really shown my photography, but I'm getting ready for that. And I'm also working on, I'm all over the place. So I have so many things in process right now.
Wonderful. I noticed, as you said, gun prints, there's a lot of texture on your canvas in this particular work. And it does look like in the targets, there's like puncture marks or maybe bullet holes, implied bullet holes of some kind.
The mixed media, those are actually targets that have been used.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, really super powerful when you're standing in front of the work. Our small image here doesn't do it justice. Well, thank you so much. Thank you. This is really great. And again, please, everyone come down to see the show and see Floyd's work. And Floyd is represented by Michael Warren Gallery, so you can see more of his work there. So thank you so much, Floyd.
Thanks, Colleen, for curating me and having me in this show. I appreciate it.
It's an honor to have you here. Thank you so much. And our next artist is Evans Alex Santil, originally from New York. Hi, Alex. Evans.
Hey.
Hi. So thank you so much for joining us and being in the show. I first met Evans from an email that got sent out from the Colorado Photographic Arts Center with Samantha Johnson at the helm. And that a really amazing photographic arts center is also in the month of photography, which I'm just going to give a quick shout out. Month of photography is happening. All the galleries and museums are participating in the month of photography right now, as are we. With these selections of photographers' works, really important photographer works. And Evans has done a very, I'd say, long capturing of all of the civil unrest and social injustice marches that have been happening since George Floyd. And his works, please follow him on Instagram. His works are so powerful. So we've selected 3, and I'd love, Evans, for you to talk about how did this last year, like, just talk to us about your response to 2020, and then I'd love to hear what you're working on. I already know personally, but I'm lucky. So tell everyone what you're working on after you talk about these.
Last year, hectic year for me. Even though looking forward to but
hey, Evans,
that I had to drop out of my class of how I'm sorry.
Hey, Evans, your sound is stuttering a little bit.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's great. If you speak a little closer.
Yes. So what I was saying was,
Darn, we're having some
Colleen?
we're having a little technical difficulty. It might be Wi-Fi related. So keep talking. Darn, we lost you.
Log off and log back.
Shoot. Okay. All right. We're gonna bring him back on. This particular piece is from the Elijah McClain. A number of violin players flew into Denver to Aurora for a concert that was happening in honor of Elijah McClain. And this is one of the beautiful images that Evans captured. We're going to come back to him, but let's go to the next artist. Francisco, are you there? Hi.
Thank you for waiting. How are you?
Yes, thank you so much for your patience and in waiting, and we can't wait to hear from you.
Is the sound okay for me?
Yes. Yes,
Okay,
it's great. Okay, good. So Francisco, these I'm gonna just say that your works are unbelievable. This, like how you use colored pencil to get this photorealistic images. This particular piece and the second one that we'll be showing are called Diaspora. We'd love to understand what this is all about. They're so conceptual and they're just so beautifully and masterfully created. So please tell us about your practice and how 2020 moved you to create these.
Sure. Thank you, Colleen. It's been great so far. All your presentation, all the remarks. One of the things that I'm obviously I'm Venezuelan born citizen. I'm an American citizen now, but I've been in this country for 20 years, and I was very hesitant to do anything about my country because I always thought that that was the easy way out. You know, you're a Venezuelan, you do work about your country and pineapples or plantains or whatever. And I decided not to do that for the longest time, but it got to a point that I said it's getting to a point that people needs to be heard, people needs to be understood. So I took on this massive enterprise to talk about the diaspora. The diaspora as a concept means that people have been forced to leave their homeland, not by choice, by the other consequences. So one of the things that I was trying to do here is how can I present the diaspora that I was actually part of, in which like this sense of people leaving their homeland, going somewhere else, but at the same time, what is the root? So one of the things that I was trying to do with this work is like I want to make sure that I want to make pieces of work that are somewhat political in context, but I didn't want to do the same language that they use because obviously, as many of us know, that politics have this kind of really loud and really aggressive way of talking about things. So I want to say, I want to kind of retreat back a little bit. How can I make very poetical notions of politics without being so loud? So the way that I did this work is like, how can I make this a beautiful drawing that people might not know what it is about until they got into it. And then once they're into it, they're hooked. And then eventually the piece will kind of open up in a sense. So the idea here is like, I want to make a beautiful piece of cloth. It's like in this case, the one that we're looking at is like a bunch of clothes, a pile of clothes. But that could be like, it could be your laundry, it could be your teenager's laundry, or it could be someone that I left behind because I wanted diaspora. So I wanted to kind of create this kind of beautiful and soft dichotomy between, like, it could be really harsh the way depending on what you're bringing out as a cultural baggage, you read the piece differently. So I think that's where I was coming from.
So they are absolutely stunning. Tell us what you're working on now.
Obviously, obviously, as you were mentioning early on, Colleen, like these pieces are really powerful and really beautiful in the sense. No, I'm talking about my pieces necessarily, but all the pieces that when you see that in person, there's a different kind of dimension that we're lost in the translation, and I understand that. But so the thing that I was trying to do with my pieces is like, you see the image on the side, but then my pieces have a lot of glow, a lot of coloring on the side. Because I think as a Venezuelan, as an Latin American citizen, there's a lot of people that are struggling, but the hope and the liveliness of them is still upbeat. So in a sense, when you see my pieces, I mean, you can see there's a lot of political on the course, but there's a lot of glow that happens with the color. So I think there's a sense of like, yeah, we're going through this, we're struggling through this, but the hope it never get lost. So I think in my sense, that kind of aura that comes from the piece is kind of is a sentiment of the hope that we all have, to kind of keep going forward. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, the execution to get that glow and to get that the essence of what your desire was, absolutely perfect and masterful in the execution.
Colleen, one of the things that I'm really excited about it. Obviously, as any working artist, I mean, you work in your studio, you put all the the hours and so on. But I'm like, I put all this time on this piece, and I'm working with magnifying glasses and all these different things, and then I put it forward in a show, and there's somebody else, the viewer comes in and take a look at that, and I say, well, I'm putting the effort, the viewer is putting the effort. There's a triad that happened. There's a triangulation in the energy of things that I think will love to get back to it. So I think that's my hope. It's like, I'm going to pull you in because your energy is needed.
You're successful. Absolutely perfect. Gosh, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I
That was
really
very
am
good.
so grateful that you're here, and everyone. Francisco is represented by K Contemporary, so you can see more of his work, and you can continue to follow his career there, or go onto his website. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that you're in the show. It's just, they are so
It's a
stunning.
privilege. It's an honor. Thank you, Colleen.
Thank you. And for us as well to have your work. Thank you so much, Francisco. Let's definitely stay in touch. Okay, so now we have Pamela Joseph, whose works are just beautiful. These are so amazing. And I'm really excited to speak with Pam because 2020, this particular series of works, I'll just quickly say before, Pam, I want you to talk about the works. The progression from what you were making to making these works is really the fascinating aspect, I think, and why we were all so moved to have these particular works in the show that came from 2020. So, so please help us understand your work.
Thanks,
These
Colleen.
new pieces from 2020.
Thank you so much. So these works are all mask headdresses, and these are prints based on large-scale constructions. Some of them are behind me. They're on plexiglass, they're layered, painted with transfers, and they're about powerful women. And what the transition that Colleen was referring to was that for a couple years, 17, 18 into 19, I had been working on something called the Wall of Shame. And so we did a book on it, and there was a show at Michael Warren Contemporary. And this was where I was putting restraining masks on Trump and his thugs. And I worked on this series for 2 years, and the masks were basically from masks they used to put on women and slaves to keep them quiet and restrain them. And I was doing these masks and putting them on Trump, and it became so depressing. And I was like, I've got to stop this. And so it was just one day I just said, instead of doing the Wall of Shame, I want to do the Wall of Hope. So I started thinking about these powerful women and who I could, and they're not necessarily about this one singular person, more about the identity of that person. And then taking images, this one is actually based on Nancy Pelosi, but these are plumes, the form of the warrior, the mask, the fighter, and how could I translate these into pieces symbolic of them?
Beautiful, beautiful. I'll move to this next one.
This one, Colleen, and is based on Greta Thunberg. My House is on Fire. To title them, I use quotes, not necessarily from the person themselves, but poetry that seemed to express the feeling that I was trying to show. The background here are flowers that are hand painted based on Swedish textiles. There's smoke rising up from an image of our Earth in crisis, but there's fire around it, and yet there's the Ouroboros, which means eternal life and rebirth, that is circular at the bottom, over the bottom of the piece.
They are so perfect, and I really love the hopefulness from where you were to these really important and meaningful works, and especially focusing on women. It's really, really great.
When I got so discouraged and depressed about the political situation, for me it was just, what can I do to be more positive about the situation and about our lives? And this one is this is actually the first one I did, and it's based on Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And it's just about the scales of justice, about women, about Eve, about flowers are used very often in them symbolically, referring to the power of the different qualities of this woman, the game of chance, the wheels behind it. And I've tried to use things that are symbolic but more universal and not necessarily specific to that one individual. But certainly Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a tremendous hero of mine and a great inspiration, especially for this piece.
So wonderful. What are you working on now? What after the craziness of 2020? Anything you're inspired by now?
Well, I'm going to be having a show at Michael Warren Contemporary in September, so I'm just starting on some more masks. There are a few more women that I want to do. I've tried to focus on different women in different fields of life. So now I'm working on one from who's an artist, but so I have a few more ideas that I want to do. I mean, they're time consuming and very elaborate. So the prints are sort of refreshing to have something so simple. So I'm working on those now, but it's been a really, just want to talk about my year. I know Floyd said he had a tough time, and I'm almost ashamed to say it was a really productive year for me.
Wow.
I became almost like a recluse, you know. I'm just very lucky. My partner Robert Brinker and I have a great situation where our studio is just down a bunch of stairs, 100 stairs from the house. And we just went to work, you know. And so for me, it was just, I was certainly upset and worried about everything that's going on, but very observant of being very careful about my health with COVID. And I just channeled it into my work. So in addition to the masks, I worked on a lot of different drawings and prints. And then I had a bunch of fun pieces I did that were just really offshoots from the masks. So when I do the masks, they're very complicated, but then I end up with extra parts. Then they were just sitting around on my floor, and I kept looking at them and looking at them. So I just started making some small, fun pieces that necessarily didn't have this structured theme and weren't so difficult to make. They were very fun and creative. But it was a very productive year for me. I felt in some ways that I've been in training for this my whole life, you know. So
wow,
I feel very lucky.
Glad. What a blessing. Well, thank you so much. And I'm glad that your work moved from the negative to the positive.
I am too, Colleen. Thank you.
It's a good outcome.
Thank you. And thank you for including me in the show. I feel very honored also. Thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you. It's an honor that you're here. Your work is so beautiful. Okay. And Liz Hickok is joining us. And hopefully she's here. There she is. So Liz, can you hear us? Is she joining? Should I go to Tom? Technical difficulties. Is Tom in the queue?
Here.
Yay, okay, great. Liz, if you can hear us, we are going to come back to you. And Evans, we have you on standby, so we'll come back to you. And everyone, it's just about 7:40, and if you hang in with us just for a couple more minutes, we'd love to just have the last three artists speak a little bit about their work, because these collaborations and these images are just beautiful. Okay, so Tom, it's nice to see you. Thank you. You made it. You were working on a mural up in Fort Collins or Loveland today?
Longmont.
Longmont, great. Longmont. Well, you made it back. I'm so glad.
Under the wire, I was driving back crazy.
You got back safely. Yeah, we're glad you made it safely. So this project is so compelling, Tom. I am so excited to talk about it because the collaboration, similar to Adrienne Delot's project with the pandemic self-portraits, this particular piece is, we'll let you talk about it, but it's called Working Separately working separate together. And the artists all came together, painting a panel, and then the panel has been put together. And it's just absolutely beautiful. Tell us how the collaboration came together.
Well, the beginning of 2020, I was working on a series of abstract paintings for a show. I had a show planned for the city of Thornton at a newly constructed active adult center, and it still hasn't happened. But I paint on doors a lot. I started doing some like experimental stuff, and I got a bunch of these cheap doors, like for free, really. And just because I didn't want to worry if the painting was going to turn out or not. I just wanted to, like, experiment and do weird stuff and not go, oh God, I just spent $80 on a canvas. So some of the doors were narrow, these 18-inch wide by 70 high, and I did a couple tests on that, and the curator and I were talking about doing a series of them, and maybe 10 of them, and or more, and then the quarantine happened. So I was sitting there looking at these two test pieces I did and wondering, like, am I going to do this show now? I mean, and what can I do with this now? And then I earlier in the year I had talked to some of my I'm always talking to friends about collaborating and stuff. So I started thinking, well, if I get more artists involved and it can make it really big. And then it also got exciting because it was like especially at the beginning of the quarantine, there was so much like unknown. There was so much like what's going to happen next? How long is this going to last? We all had so many questions. So it became something that I had control over. I said, I could actually keep this project moving forward without without another entity besides the other artists, of course, involved. But yeah, and the response has been great. Most of the venues I've reached out to are, love it and are interested, but maybe they have budget problems or something like that. But we've been on a roll so far. It's going to be up continuously for almost 6 months pretty soon. And it's looking like we're going to be up and moving from one venue to another for the rest of this year and potentially into 22. So, and I'm just, just want to keep adding more artists and, different artists, real rock stars and people that are more entry level and people with different backgrounds, people from other countries. And that's been a really exciting thing that's happened too. Like, if I see someone on social media that I really like their work, it's just an excuse to send them a message and just say, hey, I really like your work. Check out what I'm doing. Let me know if you might be interested in getting involved someday. So so that's been good. It's just it's opened a lot of doors, and a lot of people that were sort of peripheral or social media friends, I feel like are starting to actually become real friends. And
if you wouldn't mind, let's talk about the artists who are collaborative with you on this project, like Cassandra Lillard and Michael Gadlin and Alicia Cardenas and Wida Toshan. Do you want to take it from there and name all the artists?
Well, I first started just texting and emailing friends, like people I knew pretty well, that I had had a rapport with and had some conversations at galleries with and things like that. I mean, basically I started with people that I liked their work, I admire their work, and I thought there was a high probability they'd say yes, because I felt like we're buddies and stuff. So and that's kind of the way it worked out. The first the first the artists you just mentioned are probably the first three of the first artists I contacted for that reason.
Yeah, and let's name them. So there's Alicia Cardenas, Jamie Molina, whose work's beautiful, Lola Montejo, John Vogel, Wida Toshan, Michael Gadlin, Christina Maldonado, Bad Hand, Brandon Stiles, Cassandra Lillard, Gerald Castro, and Tom, of course. You painted a number of the panels.
Right.
So yeah, thank you so much, Tom. The project is
Jaime is not included yet. He starts getting energized, and then he's a busy
okay.
guy. You know, hopefully this will twist his arm if he sees this video. Hey, pressure's on, buddy.
That's so great. Well, thank you so much, Tom. We have two more artists to chat with. So I just love the collaboration, the whole concept behind the nuttiness of last year. It was a great idea. And then pulling all the pieces together, the separates into a whole.
Yeah,
so thank you.
One last thing is that there's a hashtag on Instagram, working separate together. And if you go to my Instagram, the link's all over the place. But if you want to, you know, if anyone wants to follow the project over time, that's probably the best place to do it.
Wonderful. And then you'll be posting where the piece goes after the Lone Tree Art Center.
Absolutely.
So yeah, great. Awesome. Yeah, please follow Tom on Instagram and that hashtag. Oh, great. Okay. Well, okay. Hi,
right,
Evan. You're back. Yay! You're not stuttering now. You were a little jitter. You know, it was not coming through. This is perfect.
I think it was the iPad.
Awesome. I'm glad you're here and you're with us. So, yeah. All right. Let's see.
Cool.
We were talking about how 2020 has impacted you as an artist moving through last year. Your body of work is so strong. Again, I would recommend. Are they gone? Are they still here?
I'm still here.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you can see me. I can see you, Colleen.
You can. Okay, good. And I can see your work, but I can't see you right now. But yes, please go ahead. Talk to us about your response to last year, and then and just, you know, we'd love to hear what you're working on.
So 2020 was it started off really good for me. I had my first show at CPAC. I was very excited for the year. And then I was also taking classes at Metro, and then we were forced to go online, and that pretty much threw me off track. And then so I had no motivation to photograph anything. So at that point I started working on my mixed media work, and I have maybe about 15 pieces, large pieces that I've worked on throughout COVID, and most recently I just finished them. But when George Floyd was murdered, I was in a really dark place because I was really depressed because I wasn't able to attend school. I wasn't able to create art because it was really tough for everyone. And then 3 days after George Floyd was murdered, a friend of mine texted me and told me, hey, Denver's having a protest. So, and I was just laying in bed, kind of figuring out, not knowing what I was going to do in my life. So I ended up grabbing my camera and I went downtown. And at first, it wasn't like for me to like, actually, I had no idea what was happening. I was just there. And then throughout the process, it definitely felt like I was doing my part. You know, I didn't know what my role in fighting anti-racism was, but I knew I had to do something. You know, so for me, it was to document what was happening from my point of view. And we talk about the images.
Can you see the image that I have up?
Yes. So all three images, they're very personal to me because because while I was capturing these images, there was a physical feeling behind it. The first image with the end racism on the keyboard. That day was a very, very tough day because it was so hot. And at one point, that's when we were walking on I-225 in Aura. And at one point, I was telling myself, you need to go home and drink some water before you pass out because it was so hot. But everyone was just so determined. And at that point, it was not about me anymore. It was about Elijah. It was about showing that we do care, showing that he mattered. So I had to do what I had to do and continue, and I'm glad I continued. So that's the first image. The second image was later on that same night when they held an individual, Elijah, and the subject in this image is called, his name is the Mad Violinist. And it was just playing such beautiful songs, and I had to figure out a way to kind of like to capture the essence of that evening. And I feel like this image, I totally captured it. This is one of my favorite images of that night. But it was a totally different time, totally different atmosphere at nighttime and the daytime. In the daytime was really hot and muggy. Everyone was really tired, upset. And in the nighttime, everyone was kind of like really sitting in the grass and just taking it in the moment. Okay, the third image. Yeah, so this last image was the day of well, this spot is the spot where police encountered Elijah McClain and I mean, I really need to go more into details, but I think we all know what happened. But this image brings a lot of emotions to me because it was sad. And this image was so important because right after this meeting, the protest walked to the local Aurora police station and held a protest right outside the police station. And this image is also significant because the police or the protest organizers for that day are being charged with these bogus crimes for because the protest was outside the police station, being charged with kidnapping or inciting a riot. And honestly, I was there, and from my perspective, from what I saw, there was no inciting a riot and there was no kidnapping. So this picture is pretty significant for that. Yeah.
Wonderful. And I want to just, everybody who's watching, please follow Evans. His Instagram is Alex_shoots with a Z. And really follow his body of work. He's really doing such great, the photography is so beautifully, I mean, like, you really have such a good eye and you captured so much emotion. And for that, I'm really grateful because now I know you. And then also the new pieces that maybe we have one more artist and we're getting close to needing to be done.
Okay.
But I am so grateful that you're here. And I do want to hear like the new pieces that you just sent me. Those are kind of a genesis out of this body of work, right?
Yes. Let me grab it real quick. So I've kind of like been always trying to kind of figure out how to expand my creativity. And when we went to Redline, I have a show at Redline, and there's so many beautiful work at the Redline, and so I got a lot of inspiration from collaging. So the Denver Collage Club, their work is incredibly amazing. So I highly recommend everyone watch them or go see their stuff. So I came home and I decided to create something like a piece like this, and I'm create. I'm sorry, can I? Is that better?
Yeah, it's good.
So I decided to create these pieces based off a magazine a friend of mine sent me of four people who have been exonerated from spending anywhere from 3 years to 14 years on death row. And with these pieces, I kind of wanted to play with the seriousness of the portrait, and as well as the childish play of the bright colors, and then kind of like the over embellished head, and I wanted to find that medium between the seriousness of these people's faces that spent so much of their life behind, like on death row, and it can kind of show a different side. Sense.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hey, a comment just came through from a woman named Michelle Beauchamps, and she says, Evans, thank you for sharing your experiences associated with your images. It's very impactful. So yeah, thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad you're in the show. Your work is stunning. Follow Evans on Instagram. All right. Liz, are you here?
I'm here.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No worries. We're so happy that you're here. Your work is really just, it's absolutely, I'll use, for lack of a better word, it's mind-boggling how you created this work. So I do want to understand, and I think we have maybe 5 minutes before we need to say goodbye. But Liz Hickok, welcome. Thank you so much. We want to hear about the process for this work and how it fit in. What is the genesis from 2020, and you know, how you made it, because it really is, like, when you get up close, it's really hard to tell what your art making method is, what your practice is, what your practice includes.
Absolutely. I'll give a little bit of a general idea, but first I just wanted to say quickly, I'm calling in from San Francisco, and I wanted to say thank you to Michael Warren Contemporary for helping connect me to you all and being part of the show. It's really been so lovely. And yeah, so this was a new experiment for me. If any of you have been to Michael Warren Contemporary before, I usually make these very elaborate sculptures that I create in my studio out of sort of very fragile materials like jello or crystals, and photograph those or make videos. And for when the pandemic hit, I really had to shift gears. It was really hard for me to get to the studio, and I have a child, and so I had to be at home for his childcare, and so I sort of shifted into more sort of a computer-based practice and taking photographs around me, and I just used it as an opportunity to do some experiments. And so these stem from very simple photographs of poppies in my backyard, very, you know, classic California flowers, wildflowers. And when I was really just sort of, along with everybody else, kind of shocked by what was going on, and really just not sure how to continue my practice, I found solace by taking photographs of the poppies in my backyard, and just the color, and there's just a simple joy about them. And at the same time, there was a lot of momentum here in San Francisco, and I think really all over the country, to start making bigger public artwork. A lot of storefronts were being boarded up, and there was a lot of momentum for making wheat pasted or painted murals all over the city on the boarded up buildings. And so I wanted to make something in my neighborhood, the Castro, which was really, I think, feeling some of the pain. And so I decided to take these photographs of the poppies and work on a collaboration with my partner that we had been thinking about for a long time. And so my partner is a programmer and a data scientist, and we had started a series about a year before, when we were in Gowanus in Brooklyn, New York, and inspired by this very psychedelic, crazy polluted water from the Gowanus Canal. And I had been taking photographs of those, and my wife basically made a tool, or made a program that would alter my photographs and push the pixels around in a certain way that made them look like this polluted waterway. They're a little evocative of the kind of the ink papers you get on the ends of books. And I wanted to use that tool to apply it to my own photographs. And it was just a really simple way to take these joyful images and make them, to me, they're a little bit off. It makes them a little bit disturbing, a little bit, they do evoke water, but I think it makes them feel a little bit otherworldly and surreal. And I know a lot of people felt that was how the world looked to them a little bit at the time, as it still does. It feels a little surreal. And so it was just really an opportunity to experiment, to play, and to work in this new way. And I printed them really large and got to work with some nonprofits here in the city to install them as really large wheat pasted posters in San Francisco. And I did a series of 3. 2 of the images are in your show. And one of the images, the next image, I put up in a window in San Francisco and paired it with some text, which was also a new way for me to work. I don't usually use text, but given that this was now going to be really public art, I mean, it was, they were like 5 feet tall. I was putting them up. These pieces were going up. I shot the photographs earlier, but the pieces were going up fairly soon after George Floyd's murder. And I wanted to sort of, I guess I wanted to say a bit more than just having sort of these beautiful poppies up on the walls. I really like the idea of bringing joy to our streets and bringing color and light. But I also wanted to sort of reflect what was going on at the time. And so I was able to use a poem. I reached out to a really amazing Indigenous and Black healer and poet named Dr. Jaya John, who I had been inspired by his writing already online. And I reached out to him and asked him if he would allow me to use one of his poems. And so if I can read that at some point if we have time. But so yeah, it's basically, sorry, that was a very long way of answering your question of how do I make them, but it was sort of it was an amazing sort of evolution of how I work.
I would love to ask you, or if you wouldn't mind, send us that quote and the poet's name or the healer's name, and we can put it possibly on the digital gallery so that it lives with these 2 images. I think that would be really great. And I am so happy to hear that you moved these works into the context of public art. My background is public art, so I just absolutely love when art comes out of an art center or a museum or a gallery and it gets into a public space. And it seems like many of these works are really so much about like all of us as humans and the human condition. So yeah, thank you so much. We really are so grateful that your work is in the show, and we appreciate you very much. We appreciate all of the galleries and for working with us. And so thank you. And thanks everyone for sticking around for an hour and a half talk. We're really happy that you're here, and we hope you will come down and see the show. I think it's the Lone Tree Art Center is open between 10 and 2 o'clock. Is that right, Alyssa? Yeah. Monday through Friday. So, we'll stick around a little bit longer if you want to come after that. But yeah, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here.